I got like a
Ah,
half an hour.
okay.
Is that cool?
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, and now we're live. So thanks again for joining me on this episode of the Expat podcast. And yeah, 30 minutes is fine, man. We were just talking off air, and yeah, did I tell you about that one time that I got my dog drunk?
No.
I didn't mean to. Do you remember the dog Copper that we had?
Yeah, that's the one I think I remember.
Yeah, that red dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So one time we were having lunch outside in the backyard, and apparently he was thirsty. So I said, "Oh, okay, let me try something." So I poured a little beer on the ground,
Yeah.
and so he was drinking it, and he was fine. He was like, and then he was like looking at me, and he was like, "Give me more, give me more." So I said, "Okay." So I said, uh, but I didn't want to give it to him. I didn't want to give him beer at all. And then I don't know why I did this, but I poured all this beer on the ground, and uh, and then I went inside, and I didn't know that Copper was still licking at the ground, uh, like all the beer that was left over on the ground. And then apparently, I didn't see him, but my parents saw him, and apparently that he was like wobbling back and forth, and then he just hit the ground and
Oh
slept.
shit.
Yes, and slept for like 14 hours, man.
Just straight?
Just straight.
And he was fine?
He was fine. He was fine because he had apparently had an iron stomach. But I didn't mean to get him drunk. But he was so drunk that he just passed out for 14 hours straight.
That's funny. That's
Uh,
tight.
Yeah,
Not really, not to get him drunk, but you know what I mean?
yeah, I know.
At least he didn't get sick and stuff. You got lucky.
But well, I know. I thought that we poisoned him. I didn't want to poison him, like alcohol poison.
Yeah.
But he was fine. In
Crazy.
in the end, man.
I remember people in high school used to like let their dogs drink beer sometimes.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't think anything of it. I didn't think it would like affect him so much. Well, I did pour him a full bottle of beer, kind of, but
Damn, dude.
yeah,
Trying to kill your dog, Steve?
yeah. I'm trying to kill him.
Just kidding. That's funny.
Yeah. So no, I know you've only got like a short amount of time, so I just wanted to get you on, and we can continue this conversation later. But I sent you a text message about if you wanted to talk about outer space a little bit, man.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think? What do you think about outer space? Like, what do you think it is?
Shoot, I don't even, that I don't know.
Yeah,
I just I don't think we've been where we say we have. That's what I know for sure. Like you were saying, it's
like to the
just
moon?
yeah. I don't even know. Like me, I don't know, man. I don't even, who even knows if those things have even been to other like planets,
Yeah,
like
I have no.
even the rovers or anything like that. You know,
Yeah, I have no idea, man. I mean,
me neither.
like for example, about outer space. I mean, it for me, the I don't know what to believe sometimes because for me, outer space is kind of unrelatable. If you understand what I mean. For me, it's
Yeah,
unrelatable to things. You know,
yeah. I totally understand that.
Yeah, like when they talk about it, like scientists, for example, they talk about I don't as well, the math doesn't make sense to me, of course, because the math is more advanced than my knowledge. But but
Yeah,
even with the math, when they talk about how far things are in space, whether these numbers are true, whether they're made up or whatever you tend to believe. But if you talk about the numbers, they say like the stars are, you know, 39 billion light years away, which is like 130. I don't know the math correctly, but the like 100 trillion miles away. I mean, that doesn't relate to anything on Earth, so I can't even imagine how far away that is. You know,
yeah. I know what you're saying.
yeah, it doesn't relate to anything. So that the higher the numbers go, it doesn't. I mean, what difference does it make if the math and the science are correct, then what difference does it make? I'll never get there. I will never make it 97 trillion miles to the next star. It doesn't make any sense to me.
So what do we need to know about it for?
No, yeah, I don't know. It's that a interesting story is we're teaching I'm teaching English about Earth, and what it does around the sun. And I kind of thought to myself when I was explaining it, right? Like the sun is in the center, the Earth rotates, and then the Earth also, as it's rotating, revolves around the sun. And I was doing that kind of motion with my fingers. I was thinking to myself, excuse me, I was thinking to myself, this is really strange that we do this, that this planet, if it's all correct, that the planet spins, and not only spins, it moves around the sun. That's really like
Yeah, that's
mind
weird,
blowing.
man.
Yeah, it's crazy if you think about it.
No,
Uh,
it is crazy.
yeah, it's hard to even imagine that that's what we're doing. If it is correct, I'm not saying if it's correct or not correct, but if that's the what if that's what we are doing, that's intense.
Yeah, I don't, dude. I don't even know, man. Have you ever? You know, what you should do. You should buy one of those good telescopes and then look up there. I looked at a star before. My
Yeah.
buddy has one of those expensive telescopes, and it doesn't even look like what they. It looks like a fireball. It doesn't even look like what they show you in the books. It's crazy.
Yeah, I've seen some images. They look like kind of flat circles, like the circle you kind of see on the screen right now.
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah. What did you see?
It was just like a ball of energy.
Yeah,
Not what they show you. It was weird, dude.
I can imagine it's weird.
And most people won't even like look at that, you know?
Yeah, sure. I mean, because it's not for me, it's not like important. I mean, it is important, but I mean, it's not important to most people in their lives to kind of look up and realize what they see above them is what it is, or it doesn't pertain to anything in a lot of people's lives.
No, I know a lot of people don't care about it at all.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't, that's why it's like hard to kind of think, if it's real or if it isn't real or anything like that. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, the thing that kind of interested me the most, the thing that kind of interested me the most about space that is kind of relatable is the moon.
The moon's a trip.
Yeah, the moon is crazy, right? Because
If we didn't
uh
have the moon, we would have no darkness.
yeah, exactly.
That's
But but
crazy.
but would we have no darkness though? I mean, if we spin, right? Eventually we'll spin into, I mean, if we spin away from that's what's crazy to me is why we do have nighttime. I mean, if we're spinning and either the sun is perpendicular to the earth, and therefore if we spin, then if the earth was perpendicular to the sun and we spin, then we would have nighttime anyway, right? If I understand correctly.
I don't think so because it would just spin all the way to the sun all the time.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, that's what it would be.
So the moon, so the moon is like a reflector of the sun, and that's why it gives us nighttime.
Dude, I don't know, man. That's
You
we
see
need
what
to
I'm
get up.
saying?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it's
Maybe,
so
oh yeah, maybe the moon blocks the sun in a certain way for a while or something.
yeah, like reflects the sunlight away from the earth, and that's why we have nighttime. I mean, I
It
don't know how to.
has to. It has to be something like that because otherwise there'd be no explanation.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't.
Unless we don't spin and they do.
Well, that's kind of one of the theories, right? Is that we don't spin, but the sun and the moon spin around us.
That could be possible.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. The
I
reason
don't
why
know if I don't know if we're spinning because fucking it doesn't even seem like we are.
yeah,
And
I
then
mean we don't
when you,
feel motion daily.
I've seen videos when you go up like really high and it just looks like plane. They said if like we were spinning like How come you wouldn't be able to see fucking like I don't know, there's that flat earth theory and all that shit. It's like how come you
Yeah.
can't see like curbs or anything, even if you were to look miles, miles and miles and miles out or be at like the highest point at some point in like Brazil or something. They say they can't see a curve ever.
Yeah, I have no explanation for that. I mean, I don't know about that. I don't know enough about it, you know. But
No, I don't know.
remember in I don't know if you've seen it, but there's this guy in 2012. He jumped from outer space down to Earth, and
Yeah,
it was sponsored by Red Bull. Did you see anything like this?
I saw that. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think what they were trying to say is if he went up so high, and if he was, I don't know, suspended in, I guess, low Earth orbit or at the boundary between space and Earth, and when he jumped, he landed almost exactly back to the same spot. And if we were spinning with the they're like the flat Earth people or anybody is trying to think about, or anybody else is trying to argue, is that if you were suspended above the Earth where there's no more atmosphere, the Earth is rotating underneath you, and then you would land in Los Angeles. They say that if he would fall back down to Earth, he would land in Los Angeles or close to it.
oh, so he went and landed where he did?
Yeah, exactly, because of the time.
Crazy.
Yeah, apparently. I mean, if we were spinning, then
Well, I guess
you
that
know,
would
if
make
you
sense.
yeah, because think about it like I don't know, I'm only theorizing. You know, a merry-go-round,
Yeah,
right? Okay, so if you're above the merry-go-round, right, and you hold a ball under the merry-go-round, above the merry-go-round, sorry.
yeah, it's gonna fall somewhere different.
Exactly, because it's not connected to the merry-go-round, right? Because the merry-go-round's spinning, and then the ball will hit somewhere else. So that's
That makes
kind of what
sense.
that's what they're these these theorists are kind of theorizing. I have no idea, but no, I wanted to bring up the moon is because for me it's relatable, because apparently it's close enough that it's probable that people can fly to the moon, right? I mean, they say the scientists say that it takes about 4 days to get to the moon, so that's relatable, right? That's close enough that you can drive across the U.S. in 4 days, right? If you
Right.
nonstop drive, so so that's relatable to me. Now, whether we've landed on the moon or not, that's a different story. You know,
Yeah, I remember, but
uh,
how come we don't
what
keep going to the moon?
that was my question. That was my question. Like for example, have you seen the movie Apollo 13? That
I have a long time ago.
Yeah, so that was the first time I asked my parents about the moon. I looked up into the moon. I said, this amazing movie, right? It's a great movie. I know it was dangerous. They saved those astronaut lives. And I said, oh, these people are going to the moon. And I said, why don't we go to the moon again? I mean, this happened 40 years ago, you know, and I didn't get an explanation. They said we just never went back in those 40 years. But I don't know, Drew, that doesn't make kind of sense to me. It's like
Especially if
that would
there's so much funding for all that.
yeah, exactly. You know, you spend so much money to go to the moon, and let's say that's the official story. They made it to the moon. They landed on the moon. They did all those things. It happened the way that that the narrative says, right? Let's say that all of that happened. But why wouldn't you go back ever again?
Because yeah, because like if they go to the ocean, they keep trying to go deeper or whatever. Or those
Yeah,
people
exactly.
are kind of actually. Now that I think of it,
Excuse me.
a lot of the fucking expeditions are like guys that do it on their own that have money.
Right, exactly.
That's crazy.
So and people always climb up Mount Everest all the time, and that's why I asked you if you knew who Sir Edmund Hillary was. I mean, he was the first documented explorer to go up to Mount Everest, and it's not like they just closed the book and said, "Okay, we've been to Mount Everest. let's never go to Mount Everest again. People people climb that mountain every day. I mean, it's human nature to kind of explore.
There were probably people climbing it before him too.
Yeah, exactly. They just never they were just never documented.
Yeah.
Uh, so I mean, it's kind of weird that in 40 years we've never really been back or we've never even funded anything to fly there.
I wonder what they're using that money for.
That's a good question. Because they make NASA makes like what is it, $19 billion a year, something like that.
Damn, really?
Yeah, something like that. I mean, that's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah, but I mean, wouldn't you think if they went to the if it's true, right? They went to the moon. Wouldn't you think that after all that time they would start to maybe send more and more people there, maybe start having people live there and start, you know, wouldn't it be a better place to start to go to Mars from the moon rather than from the Earth to Mars? I mean, that would be a better like skipping stone for me.
Yeah, yeah, they're skipping the moon totally to go to Mars. They say it's not inhabitable, but I don't know.
Yeah, sure. But what would be the difference between moon and Mars at this point?
Maybe the resources, but I could be wrong.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Uh, I don't know.
But I
Uh,
don't even think they're gonna go anywhere.
yeah, I don't think so either. But I don't know. I think it's
What if all that shit was fake? That'd be crazy.
yeah, but I was thinking about that the other day too. I was like, I would be that would be like the worst. I was thinking about that. That would be the worst faking of all time, though. I mean, you're getting $19 billion to fake something, and there's that would be the worst waste of money of all time to make it all fake, to be
Someone told
honest.
me or I saw something crazy that said like, and it made me realize something. Like, I guess since we were in school,
Hmm.
the books always change. You know how you got mad and said the books always change
Yeah.
for like college too?
Hmm.
Well, in school, I guess the books used to be different. I guess the world map used to be different, and it changes like all the time. Over the years, it's changed. Just nobody has noticed. So your kids are getting taught different. So you've been bred to think that the world is like a certain way.
Yeah, sure. I believe that.
Yeah, but think about that. Then what does the globe really look like?
Well, exactly. I have no idea what it looks like.
So I'm saying nobody really does, except
Yeah,
if we were to
sure.
like really go up, be able to go up there, I guess.
Well, see, that's what I'm saying. I mean, the only way to get up there to those types of heights is through government funding or government programs like NASA or JPL or the Japanese space program or the Russian space program. I mean, those are the only ways through government ways. You know,
Couldn't you build your own thing and go?
that's what I thought. That's would be great. But the one guy's trying to do it, like the guy who owns Virgin Airlines, and Elon Musk is trying to do that. They're trying to go to these places on their own, but still, they need funding.
Tesla probably makes enough money, no?
Yeah, I'm sure Tesla makes a lot of money to do that.
The Virgin guy, I don't know how much money he makes. Probably makes a lot too, though.
Probably. I mean, but if I was thinking if we landed on the moon, going back to the moon landings, I mean, in 40 years, wouldn't it be like think about it this way, right? Remember before commercial airlines, for example, that there was no way to travel around the world except for expensive boat trips, and they were long, and uh, or or before boats, they nobody really traveled anywhere. But then the commercial airliners were developed in the 1950s, and you can fly everywhere on the world. Now, after 40 to 50, almost 50 years after the moon landings, I mean, wouldn't it be like advertised? That's what's kind of strange for me. Wouldn't there be advertisements for like, oh, weekend holidays to the moon or 5-day holidays to the moon? I know maybe there's nothing up there, but wouldn't it be? like available to travel to the moon after like 40 years, like a
I see
like
what you're saying.
like commercial moon flights, you know.
Huh.
Sure it might be expensive, but you save a bunch of money and say, "Hey, let's take a 5-day trip onto the moon, go to the moon, come back, and that's it." But that's never happened. So,
I know
I don't
they're not
know.
even talking about going there really.
Yeah, no, they kind of like bypass it. It's weird. The moon is really weird to me.
I think the moon's evil.
You think the moon's evil?
I do. I don't know why. Because
Wow.
it's just darkness.
And it's cold, right? I mean,
I don't know. It's just weird, dude.
yeah, the moon is strange. The moon is a strange place. Um,
We should try to go up there.
yeah, why not?
Really crazy.
Ah, man. Hey, have you seen the Joe Rogan podcast? The one with
No,
Bob Lazar?
no. What happened?
Do you know who Bob Lazar is?
No, I do not.
No, it doesn't matter. I would say he's a engineer, and he's a guy who worked or of course, it depends on the story that you believe. You can either call that it's bullshit or that it's an actual story. But Bob Lazar claims that he worked at Area 51.
Okay.
Yeah, and his story is that while he worked at a different location, he worked within the complex of Area 51 in a complex called Area S4. And what his task was, which I tend to believe that his story is true because it wouldn't make sense because his story hasn't changed for like 20 years because he worked there between 89 to 90. And
Crazy.
what he was in charge of was working on jet propulsion and how like aircrafts can propel themselves to the air. That was his department. And what he claims is that he saw 9 different. This is the part that it's hard to verify because nobody has access to Area 51. But he saw 9 aircrafts that didn't look like conventional aircrafts that we know it, like airliners or Cessnas or anything like that. And he was describing how they look like with special types of metal, and they use anti-gravity and gravity propulsion systems, and they can move in different ways that defy the law of physics. Well, anyway, that uh, sparked this whole debate. And what happened was that the US government, had to kind of acknowledge the existence of Area 51 because of Bob Lazar's story. Well, you know, and then he says that these aircrafts are, either what he claims is that these aircrafts come from a different star system, which is like 40 billion light years away, called Zeta Reticuli. And that's where it kind of gets like science fiction because, he doesn't, what he says or what he claims is that these aircrafts come from that region of space. He doesn't know how that information came about or how the US government knows that this is where those materials come from. There's no way to verify that. But
That's insane.
yeah, it's insane, right? When you listen to his story, it's insane. Uh, and he said that these kind of, and this is where
Yeah,
it
how did
kind of
they
gets,
come across that?
well, see, that's what Joe Rogan asked him. He said, "How did you come across these kind of? How did they find these aircraft or spacecraft?" And he said, "Well, from what I heard, because he said it was so top secret, is that uh, they were dug up in an archaeological dig, and then Joe Rogan is like, whoa, if they dug these up out of the ground, I mean, where are the holes or where are the archaeological sites? And
Yeah.
Bob Lazar couldn't answer that. He didn't know, but
What?
yeah, I don't know.
I've never heard of that guy. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. You just look him up, Bob Lazar, and it'll, give you lots of it'll
I'm surprised they didn't whack that guy.
yeah, exactly. Well, that's one that was the other question, like why are you how are you still alive after all this? And he goes, well, uh I'm alive, but most of what happened was most of his records were that's why it can come off as bullshit because it says like his education was erased, his birth certificate doesn't exist anymore. So basically he exists without really existing.
What the hell?
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty wild.
So what about his name and stuff like that? He just had to make one up?
No, that's his real name, but to prove who he is kind of difficult for him.
Yeah, how would he do that then?
He has to do it through his lawyers and other special organizations that he didn't disclose. He doesn't talk about that.
Wow,
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, it's pretty interesting. I mean, so if I mean, why would they? My question for that is, I don't want to get too deep into it, but I mean, why would they do that? Why would you have to do that if he wasn't really kind of hitting on the truth?
No, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So yeah, I
Well,
don't
damn,
know.
something I've never heard that before.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I just listened to it the other day. I knew about him from before, but I didn't really kind of dug into him. But yeah,
I guess that goes along with right now what we're talking about. That's crazy.
yeah, it's really crazy.
Did you hear any other stories that you talked about?
About Bob Lazar's story.
Yeah.
Yeah, he said he went into one of the well, why he got in trouble in the first place, why he got kicked out of Area 51 is um, what he said. What Bob Lazar said is that he was working in one of his normal laboratory days, and he got invited to see one of these aircrafts being tested, right? These kind of anti-gravity tests, and he saw how it worked. It kind of what he's how he described it was this aircraft went up into the air, kind of like floated, went left, right, up and down, kind of on its own, and then it stopped. It couldn't handle for a long time. It was just a test flight, and then I don't know. I don't remember why he said he. I don't know. It kind of stuck in his head, and because he saw that, what he said was that he got a phone call from one of his superior, maybe like supervisors, and something about his wife was having an affair with him, trying to get him to be like to make him kind of paranoid and crazy to see if they can get kicked off the base or something like that. I don't want to misrepresent his story, but something like that. So what he did was he invited a bunch of his friends uh on Wednesday nights. He said to his friends, on Wednesday nights they have these test flights. So they he filmed it. On the first night, it was okay. Second night, it was kind of more risky. On the third night, they got caught and he got arrested. And he by the Area 51 military guys, he got debriefed, and then he got his security revoked, and then he got subsequently fired from Area 51. And then that's where he went public with his story in 1990 or 91 about what he
Wow,
saw. Yeah.
that's wild.
Yeah. It was an interesting podcast with him and Joe Rogan. It was good.
I'm gonna have to.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look and hear that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Something like that. I Some of the details I might have kind of mixed up. So yeah.
Mm.
What are your thoughts on like alien life forms? What do you think?
I think there's stuff out there. I don't know. Some guy I talked to a long time ago supposedly worked for NASA and he from the government for a while. Like this guy was rich and stuff and had his own place. He lived in Texas, and um, he said that there were guys like MIB guys that really fight like guys from other galaxies.
Really?
I swear to God,
No, that's
he wasn't bullshitting. This guy was older.
yeah, I don't
He was like,
I
but
no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
he was a guy. This is a crazy story, but he was a guy on Instagram that would always post like wakening. like conscious stuff, you know what I mean? Like open your
Yeah.
mind, like posts and stuff like that. But he had like 50,000 followers or something.
Wow.
Yeah, and he always knew what he was talking about, so it wasn't just spitting bullshit. So I hit him up with the DM to ask him something, and we started talking. He gave me his number. I talked to him for a little bit. We ended up losing contact, but that guy knew what was up. He was smart. He was well educated. He worked for the government. He said he worked for NASA at some time. He said he was going to come out with some stuff, but he has to wait. He couldn't tell me anything because there was like a period. He had to wait until he could come out with stuff,
Yeah,
like
sure, I can believe that. Yeah.
7 years or something like that.
Yeah,
So,
see, and see that's where these that's why all these questions come up with, like, why do these people come up with these stories now, right?
well, yeah, because I guess they can't say anything till then.
Yeah, exactly. Which a lot of people don't realize, and then when they come up with these stories, they go, "Oh, this person just wants money, or this person just wants fame," and it's like, no, this is the time when they're allowed to speak, basically.
That makes sense, huh?
Yeah, it makes sense. Uh, but I don't know. I believe in the for me it's kind of, I don't say I believe or not believe. It's just for me it's a little bit out of my comprehension, so I don't know it. But for me it seems like these men in black type of people, they exist. But for me, I think they more exist for people on the ground, not for them fighting against alien life forces. For me, that's my belief. I don't know if that's true or.
I have no idea, to be honest. I don't.
Y-
I've never really thought about it or looked into it. I have seen videos and stuff that supposedly showed these weird guys that would show up in weird instances where people saw things that were dressed in all black, like suits, and they
Yeah,
look weird. They look weird, dude. They look like the Men in Black guys, but these guys were pale white, and they always wore those like cowboy kind of hat looking things, or
yeah,
the ones with the bills, and they'd always show up to scenes like that and disappear.
I believe that. I believe that happens.
That's
There's a
crazy.
lot of things that are unexplainable, man. Like, um, but I don't know. As far as like aliens is what you see like in the movies, I don't think they look like that.
Oh no, probably not.
The things that my biggest question has always been about space is that I don't know who to talk to about this. I've always had this question, right? If if Earth is set up in its location, with the right circumstances, and there's all this life on Earth that's designed for whatever the Earth is, right? The atmosphere, the nitrogen, the oxygen, hydrogen, all of that is a perfect mixture for whatever life is on Earth, right? But okay, but
Hmm.
what about all the things that are on Mars, right? So I tend to think about life not in the sense of how we kind of conventionally think of life, but why aren't there any organisms or any beings that don't need the stuff on Earth, but can survive with the stuff that Mars provides, right? But I've read all these articles that in our solar system, there's no proof of life anywhere. But why can't there things be surviving in the, like for example Jupiter, the largest planet in our solar system? Why aren't there beings that can be adapted to whatever Jupiter provides? Maybe it doesn't need oxygen, maybe it doesn't need water, maybe it doesn't need carbon dioxide, maybe it doesn't need all this, it needs different things, but they can't prove it. That's my biggest question. Why aren't there things living on Jupiter, basically?
I get what you're saying.
you know
It's like we're the only planet.
Yeah, exactly. Or we're the only planet that is uh, provided with everything that's needed for life. But what about things that don't need what we need? You know,
Yeah, that makes sense.
that's always my question.
And like, why do they just come to planet Earth?
Yeah, exactly. So if there were aliens, like for example, aliens like the ones in the movies, right? Why would they come to Earth? What is the point for them coming to Earth? Like, are they coming on holiday, or you know, are they
Vacation.
Yeah, are they coming because what they have on on their planet, they need some of the stuff that we have that they don't have, or like what? that's why I don't really believe in aliens in that way, because why do they need to come here? What for?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
There would be no reason for them to come here unless they want to talk to us. But when is the last time you had a conversation with an alien?
Don't think ever. Someone's like, well, yeah, okay.
Last Friday.
So I went and got tea.
Yeah, exactly.
Just kidding.
No, I mean, space is weird, man. Space is really weird.
Space is there's a lot to talk about, and then there's a lot. There's just so much unknown.
Yeah, exactly. You
I
know,
would say that's the biggest problem,
yeah, exactly. And I
and we don't
mean,
have like the resources to find out too much. You know,
yeah, exactly. I think if we if we wanted to really find out about, for me, to find out what's going on in space, we would have to make these distances more relatable. I mean, one of the stars that we wanted to go see, it would take you 100 years to get there. So, okay, so if it takes you 100 years to get there, you would have to be born. You would have to leave Earth when you were born, and you would arrive at that star when you're 100 years old.
maybe not if you took one of the aircrafts that guy's talking about.
Yeah, exactly. So you would have to make that distance. You would have to be able to fly that distance. Like instead of 100 years, you would have to drop that time to uh 15 hours, like a commercial airline.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's like Avengers and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. You would have to close that distance. And like when you can fly from Los Angeles to London in 8 hours, you would have to have the same thing in space technology.
The
Otherwise,
only
we would
thing
never.
is, now that I think of it, if they dug that thing up somewhere, where did it come from?
Yeah, exactly.
So maybe it
And
did
how
come
can you
from
prove
space.
where that thing came from?
No, you can't. But I'm saying the technology and stuff, we don't have anything like that.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's what Joe Rogan was trying to talk about. He was saying like, okay, first we had steam engine, then we had coal engine, then we have nuclear energy, and we're making this progression through these steps. What Bob Lazar was saying is that maybe this technology that we find now, like this nuclear fission, this gravitation, anti-gravitational pull, is their beginning technology, and they have even more advanced technology.
What the hell? I'm
Yeah,
sure they do if that's all they got. I
yeah,
mean, that's
exactly.
their shit.
Yeah,
I don't even want to know what else they got.
yeah. I don't need. Yeah, I don't either, man. I think it's too crazy.
But dude, then like, where did it come from? It came from somewhere a long ass time ago.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he also said Bob Lazar. He had a good kind of analogy. Um, and it's hard to kind of think about it in this terms too. But think about it in, for example, like we have smartphones, right? And
Yeah,
they're kind of normal technology for us, right? We didn't invent it, but we know how to kind of manipulate it and use it, right? So it's kind of an everyday kind of technology. Could you imagine if you took a smartphone today, iPhone 10, for example, and gave it to somebody in the 1400s? That person would think that that technology is magic and it couldn't exist, right? They wouldn't know what it is. They would think like, wow, this is advanced, too advanced technology, right?
yeah, that's true.
So what Bob Lazar is saying is that this technology was dropped maybe from their future into our timeline, and we're using their old technology, but for us it's really new. And maybe that eventually will progress to this type of technology.
I guess I could see that.
That kind of makes sense. When he said that, I was like, oh, that kind of makes sense. Uh,
how did they drop it from the future? But I guess
Damn
if they were
well.
able to fly like that, they could probably do time travel.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, there have been pictures that I've seen where there's people from like it's not even like possible, dude. There's people from in the 1400s with there's some guy, there's some lady on a cell phone.
Yeah,
They caught
I
a pic, they caught a picture of some lady on a cell phone. So yeah, maybe she came from the future.
yeah, I saw that picture too.
There's other ones too, not just that one.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That makes you think.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. Have you seen these videos about these guys or women too? They have like they say they've been to the future and they say like I've been to year 2100 and then they get them on YouTube and then interview them.
I've seen the one guy that talks about the future, and
Yeah, he's
he was like stuck in like his friend got stuck in like a you can get uploaded to some simulation thing or something, but he got
yeah,
stuck and he stayed.
really?
Yeah,
That's kind of crazy, man. That's trippy.
yeah, that's a little freaky.
Yeah, that's creepy, man. Uh,
I know.
uh, that's creepy. Yeah. Or have you ever watched like old videos like on YouTube and I don't know, just say like picture. Imagine this, right? There'll be pictures that you should see, and it's a picture from like 1905 or something like that.
Hmm.
Yeah, if you can imagine it, all those people in that photo are dead. You're looking at dead people basically in those photos.
Yeah, what about it?
No, nothing. That's kind of crazy because then you think about like that you're looking at dead people. You're also looking at time traveling. I mean, and you're caught in this weird space of present and a little bit of your past and a little bit of your future. It's like it's really wild about time, basically.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, time is a trip.
Yeah,
I don't know if I'd want to mess with time though, you know?
yeah. Time would be weird to mess with, to be honest.
Like think about because the Avengers. Have you seen the new Avengers? They talk about that.
No,
It's
I haven't
about
seen
that.
it. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's about that. It's about the like time travel.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool.
What was the main theory, kind of?
And if they go back and get the stones before Thanos did, then they can change everything, but they can't interfere in what's going on. You know, they got to change it like the right way, because otherwise you could change the present, but you're in the past going to the future. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Like if you're saying, for example, in hindsight, they say like, oh yeah, if we would have just gotten the stones, then we would have stopped Thanos. But maybe at that time, it was impossible to have access to those stones. And if you were to have access to the stones, you would have changed that present timeline.
Yeah, but they end up going back. They create a time machine and end up going back to change it.
Really?
Yeah, I'll let you
That's
watch the movie, but
that's
it's
that's
pretty
kind of
wild.
cool, actually.
It is cool. So
Huh.
like, yeah, it's cool. So that way they try to get him before him. It's a pretty good movie.
That's a good movie. Uh, yeah. So no, what is it like for you with time?
What do you mean?
Like, how much more time have you got?
Time is it? 10 more minutes?
Yeah, sure, sure, yeah. So,
We could do it tomorrow. Sorry, I woke up
yeah, no,
late today.
yeah, no problem, man, no problem.
I've been catching up on my sleep.
That's always good to catch up on your sleep.
Um, but no, go ahead. And
Yeah.
we can do it in the morning tomorrow.
Well, tomorrow is Monday. We can talk after maybe 8 o'clock, the same time,
Yeah, that's fine.
because it'll be after everything that I'm done with.
Yeah, no problem at all.
Yeah. So no, I was just wondering, if to change kind of subjects, have you been reading any kind of interesting books lately, or
No, I would just been working, and
that's good, man.
that's not normal, but that's like every couple months for me. I got to do that straight.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
I'm trying to think, is there anything interesting that I've seen?
Or have you seen anything interesting on?
Um, let me see. I mean, I have. I've seen some documentaries and stuff that are pretty interesting.
Yeah, there's a new new documentary that's coming out. It's already out. I think it's called again. It's called Bob Lazar, Area 51, and the Flying Saucers. That should be pretty interesting. And it
Are you gonna
goes,
watch? You gonna watch that?
yeah, I might watch it. I might download it on the from the internet and watch what he has to say about his time in Area 51. And it's probably going to go deeper than on the podcast because when they film documentaries, they always have like inside access and
Hey, look up though. What when we get off, like
yeah.
do some research into just a little bit, just see what frequency the sun gives off and stuff like that, and the moon.
You mean like a light
It gives off a
frequency?
no, it gives off a sound frequency. Remember, I was
Really?
telling you Saturn gives off like an evil one. They were like how they get frequencies in space and stuff like that.
Like radio frequencies?
Like frequencies like we go off of, like how we listen to music.
Yeah.
You like certain frequencies. It's the
Yeah.
same thing. We just can't hear these frequencies, but they can track it.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm serious. Look it up. You're gonna trip out, dude.
That's interesting.
Well, that's when they were saying the moon is evil. Supposedly, some stuff I was getting into a long time ago was saying that the sun was like the creator and stuff like that, and that's the not the thing you want to worship, but like the person that created the sun is yeah, it's like that because it's all light. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which
Well,
kind of makes sense.
do you think that the moon is its own light source or it only reflects light from the sun?
That that I don't know. I'm gonna look into that and then I'll get out of what I think it is. I think
Yeah, because I mean, I've been doing some a little bit of research on moon. I mean, otherwise, why do they call it sunlight and moonlight? Why do we call it
yeah.
why do we call it moonlight and not like moon reflected light?
See, that'd be right. What if that could be perfectly right? Like that would make sense. Yeah, the world doesn't turn, but they do. They turn. They go around the world, but then the sun reflects off the moon, and when it hits a certain point, it's giving you dark, but then it's going off the moon, which gives it the moonlight.
So you're saying that if there's like at a point where the sun is so far away from our vision that it's hitting the moon, and then the moon's light reflects back to Earth. That
Like
makes
how you
sense.
were saying, how like if we don't revolve, then how do those work? You know what I'm saying? Or like how
Yeah,
you were saying, how do we have darkness or whatever?
yeah, because I don't know. I mean, I would like to find out, you know. And the other question, and then we can pick it up on this question later tomorrow, because uh, the last question I have is, for example, if have you remember when we were in school and we were learning about the solar system, and it would place the sun in the middle, and then you would have rings around the sun. So like the first
Yeah.
ring would be Mercury, second ring would be Venus, third Earth, and so on, right?
Hmm.
So I was thinking about this too, right? So that's trying to depict that Mercury and Venus are in front of the Earth in the Earth's rotation. So they rotate first around the sun, right? They're the first two planets. Uh, how is it possible if we are uh, farther away from the sun than these two planets, and how can we see them if they're before us in the revolutions around the sun? How is it possible that we can even see those planets? How did we find them?
See, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't make sense, right?
Right, it doesn't make sense, because if we see them in the night, how is that possible that we can see them in the night? Because I can understand that we could see Mars, Jupiter, uh, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. That makes sense, because if we turn, you would be looking towards, away from the sun, right? You're theoretically looking away from the sun. When you're turned towards the sun, you're looking towards the sun. So you wouldn't be able to see Mercury and Venus because, theoretically, for me, you wouldn't be able to see those planets at all.
I wonder why they. See, that's what I'm saying, dude. It's like Fiji bullshit or something. It doesn't make
I don't
sense.
know.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, how would you be able to?
I don't know. For me, it would seem like impossible. But then, you know, they always have those like, what is it? I don't, I forgot the how long it takes. But every so often, you could see the Mercury transit across the sun.
Yeah,
Some, and you could see Mercury. That makes sense. I can understand that. So wouldn't Venus do the same thing though? Because
like
it's
the streak across the sky or whatever.
yeah, exactly. Wouldn't it do the same thing because it's an inner planet and we're considered like the other planets are, outer?
Yeah, that's what I mean. I don't think that. I think what they tell us is not right.
Yeah, or it's halfway right, or because some things happen, the way that we've
They
been
give you the
told.
base. They give you the base, but then give you all this other stuff to confuse you, so you don't really know. But you think that's what it is because you learned it in school. But then you start finding out all this other stuff, and you're like, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, exactly. Based on your own eyes, your own observations, you go like, "Wow, this doesn't really make sense to me, or to any of you, or any of us. It doesn't make sense."
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, it's really weird. I mean, because that's what's strange. That's what's strange for me is like some of the stuff that they say, it happens. It really does. And then the other stuff is kind of unexplainable. It's in this gray area where I don't know whether it's, true or if it's not true.
And they're not gonna tell you the truth all the time.
No, exactly. Not at all. I think it's basically based on the technology. They want to keep technology hidden.
Especially stuff that they can benefit from.
Yeah, exactly. Because whoever controls the technology will have the ability to go and do whatever they want. And once those secrets get out, I think then you know uh it would be, I don't know what would happen, to be honest.
Yeah,
uh,
people would freak out for sure.
for sure, it'd be mayhem, I think.
Can't be any worse than it already is now. I'm just kidding.
No, I don't think so. I mean, you know
I'm just kidding.
uh, I don't know. For me, in and the other thing before we go close this thing out is, I mean, if aliens existed or if aliens didn't exist, I think both are kind of depressing news.
Because either way, it doesn't matter, and you don't really want to meet them.
Yeah, exactly. On one way, you're like, if you're like, if we are the only living things in the infinite amount of space that there are and billions of galaxies, if we're the only thing living, that's also depressing. And if there are aliens that come here and interact with us, that's also really depressing because then you're like, oh, you know, you either take the arrogance and selfishness of saying, yeah, we're the only living beings in outer space, and then you figure out, oh, we're so insignificant that there's like lots of other living beings out there, and we're not even uh just a speck of dust.
But we're different though, so that would be something.
Yeah, exactly. I agree
You
with
don't
that.
know. Maybe there's other species out there like us, but I doubt the same.
I'm sure that they're probably more like us than those gray aliens.
Think so?
Maybe. I don't know.
Huh,
But
that'd be
but
interesting to find out.
but those gray aliens are kind of like synthetic beings.
Yeah, kind of, huh?
Yeah. I don't know.
Almost. Yeah, I don't know either.
Well, okay. I would like to ask if somehow a gray alien came down to Earth and they were and it was a real gray alien and walking down Pomona in Pomona, what would you do if you saw it? Would, what would your
Try,
reaction be to that?
I'd try to take video, even though I'm not like that. Like I don't
Yeah.
usually do that or take pictures, but I would try to get recording of it for sure. I
Yeah,
don't know.
sure.
I don't think I would fucking say anything to it though. I'd be like, fuck that. I'd probably go the other way, dude.
Yeah, you would be scared of it, right?
Not scared. It's just
Yeah.
like I'm not willing to like test what the fuck's gonna happen.
Yeah, so you're not gonna go up there and like try to punch it or anything.
Fuck no.
I,
But I
I,
guess I guess it depended on the vibe that I got right when that happened.
so
If I got
like
a
if
bad
if you're
Oh,
sitting at In-N-Out Burger and the gray alien came up and ordered a double double.
I might trip out. Yeah, I'm like, what are you doing here, alien?
What are you doing here, alien?
Double double? Yeah, get ammo style fries. I'm just kidding. I don't
You
know, dude. I would
guys.
trip. I don't think I would. I'm not one of those people that's gonna go like press the issue because if you
Yeah,
get like a weird vibe or intuition, like, look, I don't know. There's a reason why you're getting that. So why are you gonna?
yeah, sure.
You know what I mean?
And why would you even like go towards that kind of being if you know it's gonna happen like that?
Or if you don't have any good intent, no matter what, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Not saying you need to have bad intent, but I'm just saying like if you're not going with a positive vibe and a good way about you, I wouldn't even approach the thing.
Yeah, sure. Because you don't know what that being is thinking, right? It has.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You don't know what it's ready for, so I don't want to really. I'm not gonna test it.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know. I don't know.
I think it would be pretty wild, man.
It would be
So
wild.
yeah, it would be definitely. Uh, well, I was thinking maybe we can tomorrow, if you'd like, we can maybe finish up or talk more about some of the Apollo missions that happened to the moon, if you would be interested.
Sure, that's fine. Tomorrow around the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, yeah, that's cool.
Okay, man. Sounds good. So I
Get that
appreciate you.
ready to. Yeah, no problem.
I appreciate you taking the time to come on the program, man.
I'm gonna ship you some of my weed.
Sounds good.
No, I'm just kidding. You won't smoke it though.
No, but I appreciate the gift.
They'll probably steal it in the fucking UPS before it
Uh,
gets there.
It'll probably be stuck in customs and then it'll be smoked by the time it comes to.
Steve Wolf, come pick up your package.
Yeah.
You're getting arrested, sir. For what?
For what?
Just kidding.
Illegal narcotics. Why? I'm just here.
I didn't even know. I don't even smoke.
Yeah, man.
Just kidding. No, I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah, I know. So,
All right, man.
all right,
I'll
man.
talk to you. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Yeah, talk to you tomorrow.
Alrighty.
Sounds good. So, thanks for joining me.
Yes, sir.
All right. So, we'll continue the conversation tomorrow.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. All right.
Talk to you tomorrow.
Talk to you tomorrow. See
All right,
you.
bye.
Bye.